it's high or low.
It's sad.
It's sad.
It's sad, and it's hard to get a handle on the figures. The divorce rate is actually lower than it had been at the peak, which was right after World War II. But we still have the highest divorce highest divorce rate in the industrialized world.
I'm not sure you want to answer this question, but let me ask it in terms of the bill that was recently in the Arizona State Legislature about lengthening the period of time for divorces, and making it short, making it longer. I think it was 180 days from the 60 days. Is that what kind of effect would that have? You think would have had on children?
I don't think it will have much effect, because I think that going through the process is very traumatic to the children, whether it's overnight or whether it's lengthened.
It's not a question, it's the effect on the duration.
But it's interesting that you mentioned a legislative bill, which makes me think of politics. The figures are interesting. There are 74 million children from age 1 day to 17 years in the United States. It's 24% of our population and 0% of the voters. And children have no say in politics, which may explain some of the effects that we're seeing in terms of education and health care on children. And children have no say in divorce. And when you have no say in something that affects you as deeply as whether there's health care in your country or whether your parents are living together, that can be a very difficult situation.
So stop a second, you got to put this down, otherwise you're going to photograph your...
Okay.
It's okay.
Photograph my notes.
Okay. Your notes. Is there such a thing as a good divorce?
I think that there can be such a thing as a good divorce. It happens when the parents really work hard, utilizing all the resources available to them to not harm their children. Not all marriages are made in heaven, and not all marriages are supposed to last forever. The problem is the effects on children, and these can be minimized by pre- and post-divorce counseling, by good communication, by letting the children know repeatedly that they did not cause the divorce, by never putting the children in the middle, by always, I think one parent said to me, I guess what you have to do is love your children more than you hate each other. And I thought, that sums it up.
I just find, I've always found in mediation that the parents that put the children ahead of the divorce
Absolutely
do better in mediation, and sort of say it's almost a gift to your children.
Absolutely. I think mediation is very important, because once you're in the adversarial situation of the court, it almost makes things worse, whereas mediation is not perfect, but I think it can make many things better.
I've often said to my clients, and I never asked actually a professional what they think of this comment, but I always said to them, if you can't have a good marriage, have a good divorce. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I think it makes perfect sense, and especially when children are involved.
I think you've already touched on this a little bit, but how can parents minimize the effect of the divorce on the children?
Well, I suggest that parents take divorce vows. I actually have that on my website. And okay, the marriage vows that you took, they're no longer in effect because you have decided to divorce. But if you take divorce vows and vow that you're always going to love your children, that you're never going to put them in the middle, that you're going to work very hard on communication, that I think these things can help. And the very decision to take a divorce vow on behalf of the child, I think puts a nice perspective on it. Because again, this is loving your children more than hating each other.
This is interesting. Of course, we have covenant marriage in Arizona. I'm just wondering if we should have sort of a covenant. How does the covenant include the children?
Well, it's interesting because children are very helpless when they're born. The human mammal is what we call an altricial or helpless mammal. It's not a precocious one like a horse that can get up and get to the mother's milk itself. children are like the kittens. They're totally helpless. Their eyes open, so they're not exactly like kittens, but they're totally helpless. And history has shown us that the way that children are the way they both survive and thrive is in a family. And the most successful of these families is the two-parent family. So that should be the default position for kids. All kids should have that whenever possible.
I want to get a little bit back to what you were saying before. We sort of digressed a little bit, but we were talking a little bit about children wanting to be heard during the divorce. And it sort of resonated with me because, once again, having done many divorces over the years, one of the real question is how much should the children be involved in the divorce process? I mean, I've had situations where, believe it or not, where children want to sit in on settlement conferences. So how do you draw the line between children being heard and being involved in the process?
It's very important to recognize that a 4-year-old is different from a 14-year-old. So obviously, all my answers depend on the developmental stage of the child. But I do think children should be involved. I think parents should provide their children with truth, honest answers, and honest statements. I think they should give them as much predictability as possible. Kids really need predictability in their lives. They should know where they're going to live. They should know where Daddy's going to live if he's moving out of the house. Very important that they are able to continue the predictability that they had in the previous pre-divorce life. And also, I think that what you have to do is repeatedly tell the child, you did not cause this. This is Mommy and Daddy no longer going to live together, but Mommy and Daddy will always love you and will always do the best they can to take care of you.
One of the questions when I do the mediated divorces and all the divorces I've done over the years, the parents come in and they want to say, well, how do we tell our children? Which also led to one of my favorite anecdotes where they tell the children, answer all their questions, and the child said, can I bring my teddy bear with me to Daddy's new house? Yes, okay, then everything's okay.
Okay.
But beyond that, what do you have advice to tell people about who are going to divorce and haven't told the children yet what to do?
Yes, I think they have to rehearse it. This is a beautiful place for counseling and mediation because I think both of those things can help the parents find the right words. And there's two parts to it because parents not only have to tell children what is happening, but they also have to tell children how to tell their friends. I have an anecdote of my own. I was a camp doctor at a camp where a cousin of my husband's little boy was at the camp. And he kept wandering around close to us, but wanting to say something, but didn't. It wasn't until the summer was over that he found the words to say his parents were getting a divorce. And I could tell that something was bothering this child, but didn't know what was going on inside his head. And they also have trouble not only telling adults, but also telling their peers.
I think some of the schools, I've been exposed to a lot of programs now within the schools where they have, there's a group of kids who are getting divorced, and they sit down. And I've spoken to some of those groups over the years to talk about it, which I always thought was very helpful for them.
Yes, it is. And actually, one of the best things that you can do with a child after a divorce that seems troubled is not only get individual counseling, but find groups. And there are groups in many communities of children